On Tuesday, June 9th, and I'm calling to order the Placerville City Council meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Could you please call roll?
Councilmember Carter?
Here.
Councilmember Clarici?
Here.
Mayor Gottberg?
Here.
Vice Mayor No?
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move on to item number 3, ceremonial matters. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Placerville recognizing the month of June 2026 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, Intersex, and Asexual Pride Month. Whereas for more than 2 centuries, the founding principles and ideals of American life have included liberty, equality, freedom of expression, and the pursuit of happiness, which are intended to apply to everyone. And whereas Marsha P. Johnson, a prominent leader of the LGBTQIA+ Pride, proclaimed, "No pride for some of us without liberation for all of us," inspiring a commitment to inclusivity, compassion, and mutual aid in support of these ideals. And whereas equality of opportunity and freedom from discrimination are fundamental to supporting joy, personal fulfillment, and economic success. And whereas the City of Placerville celebrates the American values of liberty, equality, freedom of expression, and the pursuit of happiness, and recognizes the importance of its residents, visitors, and employees to safely express their multifaceted identities which enrich our communities. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Placerville does hereby recognize June 2026 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month and honors all efforts that provide opportunities for a life free from discrimination and prejudice in support of equality and the pursuit of happiness. All right, and I will bring this down to Justin, Tyler, and our other folks that came out for this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we can do a little photo and then you guys can come up and talk.
Someone's gonna take, oh, there, somebody should take a photo. Yes.
It's in her job description.
It is, really?
Other duties aside.
We don't have that Class A license thing and other stuff in the job description, but we've got photographer. All right.
We'll go ahead and give this
There you go.
if you like.
I just want to say a quick thank you. It feels so good. We've lived here for a long time. It's so great to be acknowledged and to be seen in our community. So thank you so much, Mayor, and all of you guys for acknowledging that we are just as much citizens in this city of the county as you are. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Would any other members of the public like to comment on 3.1?
Oh.
Is that on? Oh, what Justin said. My name is Axel. I am the president and the co-founder of the El Dorado LGBTQIA Solidarity Fund, which we recently just got the 501c3 language all approved by the state of California. So it's pretty exciting. I've got the support of my partners back here and then all of our queer friends up here in the foothills. And we have put this Solidarity Fund together to elevate queer people up here in the foothills, to provide resources if someone's down on their rent or needs support with their hospital bills or groceries or something, a way for all of us to look out for each other.
Great. Thank you. All right. Any other members of the public want to comment on this item? All right, I see none. So we are done with our proclamation. You are free to stay if you'd like, but you're also free to get up if that's what you were here for, and you don't need to listen to the rest of our meeting.
We would leave if we could.
All right. No,
It barely captures our interest.
All right. Item number 4, closed session report. City Attorney Ibrahimi.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg. The council met in closed session on 3 items this evening. There was no public comments. On item number 1, the council provided direction to staff to purchase 681 Main Street. That item is 12.5 on tonight's agenda. Item 2, the council provided a direction to staff. And on item 3, the interim city manager appointment. That has been agendized under item 12.4.
All right. We're going to move on to item number 5, adoption of the agenda.
I'll move we adopt the agenda.
I'll second. All
I
right.
have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. We're going to move on to item number 6, announcement presentations to the public. 6.1, brief comments by the City Council, starting with Councilmember Yarborough.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure all of us up here, except I think for the mayor, she was running, literally running, on January 6th. Went to the wagon train. They did a fantastic job. Congratulations to the wagon train and people who put that on. And the weather was fantastic. So it was very nice not to be 105 out there. So, but yeah, it was amazing. It was some great proclamations, some great recognition of Davy Doc Weiser and the people who do the wagon train. So it was a great effort by all.
All right. Councilmember Carter.
Yeah, echo those sentiments. The Wagon Train Golden History Days was great. Thank you, Greg and Loretta, for spearheading that effort. And great turnout, great vendors, total success. And it was good to see a lot of recognition for Davy Doc, and it was great. And then also I want to remind everybody that the fair starts next week. Look forward to seeing everybody at the fair, June 18th through the 21st.
All right. Vice Mayor No.
Went to Wagon Train, as you've already heard. I also went to the change of command ceremony for our new fire chief, where we said goodbye to Chief Cordero and we welcomed in Chief Brad Gates. So welcome, and we're excited to have you.
Councilmember Clarici.
I went to the wagon train and it was great. And I think, actually, it was great. And the Golden History Days, and I think we have a lot to build on, not so much for the wagon train, they come every year, but the Golden History Days event, once again, Greg and Loretta did a great job. And I think we have a real good event there to build on. They have a good event to build on. And it was really good. And the weather was nice. And that's it.
And I participated in the Special Olympics torch run that we did here in the city to the Bell Tower. And then I was running a race this weekend. I'm a runner, so that's why I was not at Wagon Train. I had a 10K. All right, we are going to go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Would any member of the council like to pull any items from the consent calendar? All right, I see none. Would any member of the public like to comment on our consent calendar?
Good evening, Kathy Lishman. I know I could have called and gotten the answers to these questions about items on the consent calendar, but on 7.5 for the Green Valley Road project, since it's a general plan amendment, I wondered if it had been noticed to the people within 300 feet of that property. And then on 7.7, I'm just curious, it's the impact mitigation fees for fiscal year 23-24. When do we see the report for 24-25, since it's already 26? And then the last thing was on 7.13. This is quite a long consent calendar this time. It's the road maintenance and rehabilitation account project list. And it says said list, but on said list, there's nothing there. So I would like a little explanation about that. Thanks.
All right. Any other comments on our consent calendar? Would any of our staff have responses to the questions on the consent calendar from the public?
I actually responded to Ms. Lishman. Yes, we did do the 300-foot radius from the property lines, and I sent her the list of people that were notified.
Hi, I can speak to the TIM fee report. So we are playing a little bit of catch up, and the 24-25 will be on the next city council meeting agenda.
In regards to the SB1 project list, it's attachment A in the packet. It's right there.
All right. Would we get a motion on the consent calendar?
I'll move the consent calendar.
I will second it.
All right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right. We are going to move on now to item number 8, public comment, non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the Subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. We're prohibited from acting on these items. You'll be limited to 3 minutes. If any member of the public would like to comment on non-agenda items, this is your opportunity to do so.
Sue Rodman, President of Placerville and member of the Placerville Fire Safe Council. And I'm wondering if we have made any progress toward getting the barriers to evacuation, otherwise known as fire gates, taken care of and gotten rid of so that people can evacuate. We have already had our first fire this year, and we were really lucky. We have great firefighters, and it stopped at 5 acres. But we can't always be that lucky that the winds don't whip up. And we really do need to have evacuation routes out for people who don't want to watch or don't want to burn up with their houses. And so I'm wondering if we're making any progress on those fire gates. So-called fire gates. I would call them barriers to evacuation more than any kind of good thing.
Kathy Lishman, sorry, but because she mentioned the Fire Safe Council, I got to thinking, I'm really curious who's responsible for all of the leaves on all of the roadways around town, because the weeds are way taller and way more than ever this year. And I don't know if it's the property owner's responsibility or the city's responsibility. And we need to figure that out because they need to be taken care of. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Are there any further comments on item 8? Does staff have any answers to questions from the public?
I can speak to the fire gates. I'm hoping to bring it, the first fire gate, which is Arizona, to your next meeting. There are some challenges, so I'm hoping to provide an update at our next meeting. If not, it'll be forthcoming.
All right, great, thank you.
And I can reach out to Ms. Lishman to find the exact locations that she's talking about with the weeds, because they could be our responsibility or they could be a private property owner's.
Okay, great, thank you. Do we have any 8.2, any written communications?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, we had no items pulled from the consent calendar, and we have no ordinances tonight, so we are going to move on to item number 11, public hearings. 11.1, public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 operating and capital improvement program budget proposals. Ms. Tornin-Casa.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gottberg and City Council members. I'd like to walk you through a presentation. It looks very similar to the previous year. The agenda is we're going to just briefly go over the sales tax trends, which we actually went over last month, but I'll just kind of, because it is our #1 indicator for the general fund. Also then we're going to spend some time on the general fund budget, very high level on the other city fund budgets, and then our capital improvement program CIP budget. So sales tax trends, again, this was shared in a staff report last month, but just as a reminder that Bradley Burn sales tax is 1% of that 8.25% sales tax. It is our most significant local indicator, and it does make up more than half of our general fund revenue. So it is very significant, and that's why we closely look at our sales tax trends on a quarterly basis. The city of Placerville has always had strong per capita sales tax. We're at $589 per person, so that was as of calendar year 2025. And Placerville ranked 39 out of 540 agencies. We were ranked 41 last year. Generally, we are on the very top of this, so we do quite well. And then just as a reminder, when we look at the current sales tax trends for the quarter ended December 2025, unfortunately, Placerville receipts were down by 32,000 or 2%, while El Dorado County and statewide for California receipts were up 1.4 and 1.2 respectively. Okay, so what drives our sales tax revenue? It's the same three big buckets as last year. Number one is our state and county pool at about 30%. That's our online sales tax, followed by our auto and transportation and our building and construction. So those are the major industry groups that contribute to our sales tax. Okay, so now I'm going to dive into the general fund and the budget. So the general fund, we have a lot of operating funds, but the general fund budget is really our true source of discretionary dollars. And it pays for most major city services, including public safety, development services, and parks and recreation. What we've included in this budget is foreseeable projected economic impacts. And just to remind the public and city council, when we started this process, we kicked off our budget season in January. It's made up of the city manager and all the department heads. We went in January saying that based off of sales tax trends, it was going to be another tough budget year. We're going into a third year of a tough budget year. So just with the status quo budget of being extremely conservative with our line item expenditures, as well as forecasting as accurately as possible on our revenue, we were at a $974,452 deficit, which equated to 8%. Then we presented at the first budget workshop on April 30th. All the department heads had an opportunity to provide their requests, and those additional requests hitting the general fund were $1.2 million. So when we held that budget workshop on April 30th, we were going into that workshop with a $2.1 million deficit. We took the 2.5 weeks in between the two workshops, and we met twice as a budget team. We met with the city manager and the department heads, and we have a great team. Everybody looked at their line item expenditures, all of their additional requests, and we were able to cut that from 2.1 to 860,527. So then we were at a 7.13 total deficit. And again, that was really scrubbing the line item budgets, really keeping the expenses to what they were the previous year, so it was pretty flat, really cutting any overtime, and just really taking a look at everything. We did meet in closed session on May 21st to get further direction on how can we reduce that $860K deficit, with the goal to present a balanced budget tonight. So us staff recommend $860,683 in additional budget adjustments. And so high level, what are those adjustments? Well, we've already for the last 2 years transferred in all of our RMRA SB1, that's our highway user tax, sales tax. So now we're also saying the interest, which was our projected interest for that tax is $28,800. Freeze a vacant police officer position. Freeze a vacant senior maintenance worker position. Now, this senior maintenance worker is tied to sewer. However, one of the things that the budget team looked at, which we're actually going to take a broader look at once the budget is adopted in August, but we looked at the cost allocation for all the FTE positions and what positions and what funds they were tied to. And we specifically found 4 positions that were 100% tied to the general fund, which really didn't make sense. So we have our senior civil engineer, our engineering specialist, one of our accountant positions, and our director of finance were tied to the general fund, but they absolutely touch our water and sewer enterprise funds. So we were able to freeze the current vacant senior maintenance worker, which freed up $127,000 in the sewer account, but we were able to reallocate 4 FTEs that are in the general fund to the sewer account. So it was kind of a wash there, but that actually freed up $127,000 in the general fund. It just didn't free it up on the sewer side. Freeze the vacant senior management analyst position and contract out IT services. You'll see that there's only about a projected $14,000 in savings, but I just want to caution you there that there's a lot more savings than that, because there's savings on the water and sewer side as well, because that position touched both the general fund and the water and sewer enterprise fund. Freeze the vacant building official position. This actually didn't have a budget impact, but I thought it was important. And we're going to contract out building services. It went out to RFP. Ms. Kendrick and her team are reviewing those RFPs, and we do anticipate some savings. Any savings, we would provide additional planning support. That's what we're recommending. The biggest line item to get us to a balanced budget was the community services department reorganization that was proposed. and that has an estimated savings of $344,000, as well as we have other citywide savings that we're currently in negotiations with the unions, but that would project about $191,000 in savings. So where does that leave us? That leaves the general fund balance estimated at $156. And we have also included $25,000 for contingency for unforeseen expenditures. And I just want to be very clear. Really, last year we didn't have anything for unforeseen expenditures because it's like the first thing to go, because of course we don't want to cut positions. We have $25,000. Generally, we should be putting 1% to 3% of our total expenditures in contingency. And so that would be $100,000 to $300,000. In the past, we've done $75,000 to $100,000. So $25,000 is very, very light and low, but it's a step in the right direction. Okay, annual debt service. I wanted just to highlight, well, these are the four that we have. So our 2006 state revolving loan, that was a $42 million loan that we needed for the wastewater treatment plant to make those improvements. Currently, we owe about $22 million. And good news is it is a zero interest loan. And in speaking with Joe as well as our city engineer, Melissa, we are looking to kick off as soon as August about loan forgiveness and really exploring that further. So our 2019 CEC loan is our California Energy Commission loan. The initial loan amount was about $700,000. It's at a 1% interest rate. Okay, what is that loan for? It's for interior and exterior lighting, heating, and cooling. It's due by 2035, and that's a 1% interest rate loan. We also have the 2022 waste revenue bonds. That's a 2.99 interest rate payable to end in 2035. And then we have a 2023 master equipment lease loan, which was around $700,000. It was for 12 pieces of equipment. That's a 4% interest loan. It's split between general fund, water, and sewer. But you can see our total annual payments for this upcoming fiscal year are just under $3 million in loan payments. Okay, general fund transfers. Okay, I really want to highlight this for a second because this is 2 years in a row we're doing this. We are transferring the full gas tax fund, and that's why Nick on consent is saying it's going to Public Works personnel. Generally, we would like at least half of this or all of this to go to projects, but it's fully going to Public Works, general fund personnel, and street maintenance. So that is one way we've been for the last 2 years trying to balance this budget. So what you'll see is we see that tax going up slightly, and so that $676,000 from our gas tax fund is going to be transferred in to help us balance the general fund. We also have a general CIP fund, and you'll see $107,000, a little bit of an increase from the previous year. That is for the broadband project. We can kind of recover half of our IT director and his personnel time on the broadband program. But when the broadband program ends, then we wouldn't be able to recover that $100,000. Now, the parking district fund, it's always the $8,000 that transfers out. Now, the general fund to the Measure J. Okay, this has been, as we report on a quarterly basis, we get about $1.4 million in Measure J sales tax, but that costs us like $2.2 million. So the general fund always has to transfer out to pay that Measure J as like a supplement and the offset. The good news is it's flat year over year. Before we made the adjustments, it was going up to close to $900,000, and that's because of freezing a police officer position. I just want to let you know that that fund runs at a deficit. And then the general fund has to do a transfer out for general liability, which is like property insurance. That's split between the general fund, water, and sewer. And right now, we're actually projecting general liability and property insurance not to increase significantly. We haven't gotten the final numbers, but we're projecting, based off of CIRA, at a 3.52% increase. So this just summarizes our transfer in and out of the general fund. But let's dive into really the proposed budget. So this is a year-over-year comparison. We're comparing the revised budget to the proposed budget. It's a little bit confusing because it goes into like the status quo, So we had $11 million in revenue, 11.7 million in expenditures with the net transfers out that we just explained. That gets us at 12 million in expenditures. So our status quo budget that we had before those additional requests, where it was the $974,000. Then we've made significant budget adjustments. We're keeping one ASL request. That was part of the wastewater study regarding computer equipment. We're keeping $16,000. The engineering department needs a new printer. Community services needs a new server. I also want to let you guys know that we are kicking this down the can. Computer equipment for the general fund is $16,000 proposed for this year, is $180,000 expected for next year. So, other capital outlays is $8,000. That is for partial for an investigation truck. It's being offset with the community benefit fund. The CIP request, again, we've really scrubbed all of the general fund. This is a requirement. It's the housing element. And then the conference training and travel is really just our public safety and this really small amount for community service. These are basically required trainings. For, again, this is 2-3 years in a row where we are not really investing in any training. We are looking for all the free webinars and really only doing the required trainings that hit the general fund. So with those adjustments, we get to a surplus of $156, which is a big improvement from last year's budget of a $300,000 deficit, but we had to take significant action to get to this place. Okay, general fund revenue. So when we look at the revised budget for 25-26 versus our proposed budget, you can see sales tax, very modest. You know, it's basically flat. So we are looking at $6.2 million, a $17,000 increase year over year. All other taxes, which is, you know, our TOT, cannabis, franchise, utility, that's flat, 1% increase year over year. Construction permits are down. You know, we had the luxury of Sutter Ridge, Mallard, Middletown the last 3 years. We don't have projected any big development projects this year. So that is taking a hit. Intergovernmental revenues, which is primarily property tax in lieu of vehicle licenses, that's flat. Now the charges for service, you know, small bright spot here with a $66,000 increase. That has a lot to do with the master fee schedule and the increases, but I can tell you it's not as significant because volume is down. Is projected to be down. Not in all departments. Engineering is kicking it. Fines and forfeitures, flat. The $6,500 decrease is primarily with code enforcement, notices of noncompliance, and DSD fines. The use of money property slightly down. The interest rates have been going down, so that is really usually interest revenue. With that all being said, year over year, we're looking at an $86,000 increase in revenue, which is less than 1%. So basically the story here is revenue is predicted or forecasted to be flat year over year. Okay, so when we look at general fund expenditures and net transfers out, again, there had to be 2 budget workshops and significant cuts across the board, some more significant than others. But when we look at the police department, you can see that that's relatively flat, and that has everything to do with freezing that police officer position. Development services is up. That has a lot to do with the $60,000 for that CIP that we're required to do. Engineering is up slightly. Some of that has to do with just getting that new printer. Community services is down. That has to do with the reorg. Public works is slightly up. That has to do with the new deputy director, even though it primarily hits water and sewer, as well as electricity costs have gone up. So we do kind of like a 5-year forecast. So that increased a little bit. City council is flat. City administration is relatively flat. Okay, another story to tell here is the finance department is significantly less expensive this proposed fiscal year, and there's 2 reasons. We underfilled 2 positions. We underfilled the assistant city manager, director of finance with the director of finance, and we underfilled the assistant finance director with an accountant. We also looked at cost allocation, and we moved over some of the general fund cost allocations on those 2 positions to water and sewer. Non-departmental is slightly down, but relatively flat. So when you look at our expenditures, they're decreasing year over year, but there were significant cuts that had to be made. And so we're actually looking, very responsibly, we're actually looking to reduce our expenditures and have an expenditure decrease by 1.91%. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is it's a visual. General fund expenditures. It's really police and community services. They take up about 60%. You can also look at it this way. Sales tax, as we said, is our number one revenue source for the general fund, followed by intergovernmental revenues, and then you can see where the expenditures fall. I will tell you, we're going to be taking a hard look at all of our expenditures, specifically the ones that hit the general fund, but across the board, because this is actually, it almost feels like Groundhog's Day, where it's 3 years in a row of the exact same story. I want to spend a little bit of time here. So the general fund budget trend. So revenue line is in blue and the expenditures are in red. You can absolutely see, and I know our previous Assistant City Manager, Director of Finance has explained this, but I think it's worth restating. We had a surplus during COVID, and we had a significant amount of ARPA funds, $2.6 million. So we had a planned deficit in 23-24. We did some pre-funding to the pension. We had some one-time projects. But since 23-24, we have been really struggling with our revenue being flat. So flat in 24-25, 25-26, and I'm proposing flat revenue in 26-27. And the only reason you're seeing that red line kind of mimic that blue line is because of all the significant cuts we have made over the last 3 years. I could go over the list of all the frozen positions and all of the things that we have done, whether it's taking from the gas tax or all the deferred maintenance and not funding projects and not funding training and all of the things that we're doing to try to live within our means to balance this budget. Okay, so Water Enterprise Fund. Now, this is a different story. This isn't the same story as 3 years in a row. Revenue is up, and that has everything to do with the rate increase, because revenue had been flat for 4 years before the rate increase. So we are looking at higher revenue numbers. We also, part of the rate increase, it was to fund additional positions and other things. Our expenditures are a little bit up. The transfer out, that's again, just slightly above because that's our general liability, property insurance. So total expenditures for the Water Enterprise Fund is $2.9 million. That gives us a surplus of $175K. So we are able to move forward with the ASL request, some computer equipment, a capital outlay, a CIP. We're able to move forward with all of those things and still have a $32,000 surplus going into this budget. And that is a good story because last year we had a $70,000 deficit. That would not be possible without the rate increase. Sewer Enterprise Fund, same thing here. So it's a very different story than last year. This year, our revenues have increased because of the rate increase, so we're able to cover our operating expenditures. Very different story than the general fund. Now that net transfer, it should be a transfer in, that is Measure H. We handle Measure L and Measure H very differently. Measure H gets transferred into the sewer because of our debt. And so you can see that the total expenditures are $7 million because it was reduced with the Measure H, and that gives us a surplus of $1.3 million. But again, that includes Measure H and all of the projects, and trust me, Melissa and the Measure H and L committee have all that money earmarked. So other budget adjustments, that was freezing that senior maintenance worker position. That allowed us to move forward with some capital outlay requests, some computer equipment, conference training and travel, things like that, and we are proposing a $67,000 surplus. It's illustrated differently in 25-26. The way it shows a $645,000 surplus because it didn't include any of the CIP requests, and I'm actually illustrating the CIP requests in this comparison. But the good news is we do have a surplus. The other funds, it just shows Measure L, that we're projecting a slight increase year over year of $3 million. Measure H, that's just the interest. Everything else is balanced. I will tell you that the downtown parking fund, that's going to become more and more of a challenge to balance, but I won't spend too much time on that. So total operating budget, so that includes general fund, water, sewer, and all of our other operating funds. Our proposed budget for revenue is 30 million, which a year-over-year increase of 1.6, which is 5.81%. But as you guys know, I just went through the general fund. The general revenue is flat. So the 5.81% increase is the rate increases, because we are increasing our water and sewer rates by 10, 11, 12, 14%. Now, the expenditures are also up, but again, they're not up on the general fund. They're up on the water and sewer enterprise funds, so they're increased by 6.99%. That was all part of the water and wastewater study, so those were planned expenditures. We have revenue over expenditures by 3.2 million, but 3.1 million of that is Measure L. And then the rest is that 32,000 in the water enterprise fund, the 60,000 in the sewer enterprise fund, and then we have a CFD Cottonwood that's pretty new, so we're kind of building up reserves there, so if they have a storm drain need or something like that. So right now it's operating with a surplus, but we're not spending every dollar every year. There's things that you have to build reserves for. So now I'd like to hand it off to Melissa to go over some of the completed CIP projects for the current fiscal year.
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, so this year we completed the Smith Flat Road storm drain and paving project, the Thompson Way Sherman Street paving, which was the first phase of the underground utilities, Placerville Drive pedestrian connectivity, and then a couple of projects out at the water reclamation facility, including the secondary clarifier, launders recoding, effluent flow meter, waste gas flare control system. And we are getting dangerously close to completing the solar project, I think in the next couple weeks, if all goes well with PG&E coordination.
Okay, so here is our proposed CIP budget. As I had mentioned, the $60,000 was for the 2029-2037 seventh cycle housing element. That's the only CIP that's hitting the general fund. Melissa and I did hold our Measure H and L committee meeting last Wednesday. We got approval on all of those recommendations. Melissa, would you want to speak to any of the other CIP budget items?
Sure. I think, primarily, and as we've talked about many times before, our big driving project is the Placerville Drive project. So that's really what's most of our Measure H&L project recommendations for the next year. And then we are also just continuing to build up the construction reserve for any unforeseen needs or needs on existing projects.
Thank you, Melissa. So kind of in closing, our upcoming budget items. So if these assumptions look good, and we would like to bring back the budget for 26-27 at the next City Council meeting on June 23rd, 2026. I just want to let you guys know that the budget team will immediately regroup in August to begin tackling our general fund structural deficit. And the structural deficit is due to flat revenue forecasted while expenditures continue to increase by 8 to 10%. Each year, if you have $11 million in expenditures and you're looking at an 8% deficit, that's $1 million. Because we partner very closely with HDL on our sales tax revenue, which is our number one revenue source for the general fund, they're projecting maybe a 2% increase in 27-28. So we do believe that we will be in this year and definitely next year. We're going to be in tough years. And I think with just the purchases of 681 Main Street and the planned consolidation of city services, we do anticipate long-term savings with improved efficiencies and reduced operating costs. But that could take years, to really realize that. And then our goal would be to review our mid-year budget report and program adjustments in March, but even hopefully with the goal of coming back to you guys even sooner, as we are immediately jumping on this deficit and looking at operations across the board. We're looking at maybe potentially operating the city differently. So that's the conclusion. Do you guys have any questions or comments?
Any questions from the council?
Good job.
Yep. All right, I will now open the public hearing for item 11.1. If any member of the public would like to comment on this item. All right, looks like no members of the public want to comment, so I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
I just want to thank staff. This was a really tough year. I know it was a lot of hard decisions and hard work, and I just want you all to know how much the council really appreciates it.
All right. So this will come back to us for approval at our next meeting. Moving on to discussion and action items. Item number 12, 12.1, Memorandum of Understanding to designate San Pasqual Valley Soils as a direct service provider to the City of Placerville for SB 1383 compliance. Ms. Kendrick.
Good evening, Mayor Gottberg and members of the City Council. Carol Kendrick presenting this item. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the City Manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with San Pasqual Valley Soils, Inc., designating them as the direct service provider to help the city meet its annual SB 1383 compost procurement target of 505 tons. As you may know, Senate Bill 1383 requires cities to procure a minimum volume of recovered organic waste products, primarily compost, each year. Placerville's current target is 505 tons, and since 2023, we have purchased this compost through Waste Connections, which is part of the El Dorado Disposal Organization. We were purchasing those at a rate of $16.80 per cubic yard. Those purchases were partially subsidized by a CalRecycle grant that is now ending. San Pasqual Valley Soils is a permitted composting facility located in San Diego County. They actively manage approximately 775 acres of farmland at the San Pasqual Valley Agricultural Preserve. Under the proposed MOU, they will produce and supply SB 1383 compliant compost. They will spread the material at agronomic rates on their own farmland. They attract volumes, conduct soil testing, and provide all required documentation for state compliance reporting. For this proposed MOU, the city will pay $10 per cubic yard, a meaningful reduction from our current rate. This change is projected to save the city approximately $10,000 per year, with total annual cost estimated at $7,000, depending on the exact volume needed. Funding would be through the general fund. The MOU has already been signed by the president of San Pasqual Valley Soils, and it would become effective upon signature by the city, and again, can be terminated by either party with written notice. Staff reviewed this action under CEQA and determined it qualifies for a categorical exemption under Section 15308B, actions by regulatory agencies for protection of the environment. This project supports carbon sequestration, improves soil health, reduced erosion, and organic waste diversion. In summary, this MOU provides a cost-effective, fully compliant, and environmentally beneficial way for the city to meet its state mandate. So at this time, we're recommending option 1, which is to authorize the city manager to execute the MOU. I would like to point out that one of our staff members just reached out to this organization in an effort to save funds. So we have a lot of great team members and teamwork really trying to reduce our impacts on the general fund. A draft resolution and the signed MOU are included in your packet. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the council?
I have a question. Okay. Where does this leave us with all the wonderful mulch out at the MRF? Okay. And we may be talking about two different things here.
Right, so the
Yeah.
compost and the mulch are two.
Oh, yeah, compost and mulch. I'm sorry. I should listen more. Thank you.
Yeah, that was actually kind of my question. So that means this company will be using all the compost that we purchase for themselves instead of having it available to the city residents. Is that how this works?
Yes.
No more free mulch?
Right.
It's in addition to, right?
Is this in addition to what we're getting, or is this? Yeah. So this is my question here. So is this everything that we have to pay for each year? Are we still getting the compost at the Waste Connections site that the citizens can go pick up for free?
Well, I asked this question, and my understanding was we'll still be getting a small amount over at the transfer station, but a majority of it is going to go there. So, we won't want to be, we might want to have to restrict that to city residents only if you want to make sure your city residents are getting that, because we won't be having as much.
Well, it's supposed to go to city residents only.
Well, I think they were being loose in past years
Because there was so much
we
of
were
it.
worried it wasn't
So
going
much
to
of it.
go.
Yeah,
but
it was,
turns out it's very
and there was a
popular.
lot of it, too.
Yeah, it is. It's very popular.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
They will supply, they will use it on their farms.
Yeah, yeah,
They'll
yeah.
also supply as well.
We'll be growing crops in Imperial County or whatever.
Beautiful Escondido.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
That. Okay.
Would any member of the public like to comment on this item? All right, I see none, so I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll move staff recommendation.
All right, I have a first.
What?
I'll second.
I have a
I'm
first and a
sorry.
second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to item 12.2. Consider approving cooperative agreement with the California State Department of Transportation for the Western Placerville Interchanges Phase 2.3 westbound off-ramp project and authorizing the city manager to execute the same, authorizing staff to release a request for proposals for consulting services, and authorizing staff to release a request for qualifications for consultant in a management support role. Ms. Savage.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg and council members. The Western Placerville Interchanges project is a phased project that will construct a new complete interchange at the US 50 and Ray Lawyer Drive, reconstruct the US 50 Fairgrounds interchange at Forney Road and Placerville Drive, and the project also includes widening and intersection improvements on local streets, including Forney Road, Placerville Drive, and Ray Lawyer Drive, as well as the construction and reconstruction of several off-ramps and on-ramps to US 50. It is a major transportation investment that has been underway over the last few decades. On November 22nd, 2005, the City Council adopted the EIR and selected Alternative D as the preferred project design for the Western Placerville Interchanges project and directed staff to prepare plan specifications and estimate for the project upon approval of FHWA. Since that time, and as funding has become available, the city has completed the design and construction of 4 phases of the Ray Lawyer Drive interchange. 2 phases of the overall project currently remain. Phase 2.3, which is the westbound off-ramp at Ray Lawyer Drive, and Phase 3, which is the entire Placerville Drive Forney Road interchange. The westbound off-ramp project is a really important piece of the city's transportation and circulation network. The construction of this off-ramp will relieve Placerville Drive from being overutilized and will especially help reduce traffic congestion in the westbound direction. During the supplemental project approval process for the last phase of the interchange project, Caltrans required the city to commit to building the final quadrant of the Ray Lawyer Drive interchange in the next 5 to 10 years. Caltrans does not allow the construction of partial interchanges, and that's what we've done. The project is funded with State Transportation Improvement Program funding for the preliminary engineering, environmental documentation, right-of-way, and final design phases. The first phase of work is programmed in fiscal year 25-26, and staff is currently requesting allocation of the STIP funds at the June 2026 California Transportation Commission meeting. Tonight, we are here to discuss 3 items related to this project. Staff is recommending the approval of a cooperative agreement with Caltrans, which outlines the terms and conditions that allow the city to implement a project on the state highway system. Staff is requesting approval to release a request for qualifications for a consultant project manager services. At this point, because we have 2 vacant engineering positions, and based on workload and current project commitments, we currently do not have staff available to act as the project manager on the WPI Phase 2.3 project. Staff is considering procuring as-needed services of a project manager under a multi-year master services agreement. This would allow individual task orders to be issued as needs for project-specific services arise. Each task order would have an associated scope of work and a budget that would only be authorized if there is sufficient funding to cover the cost of the services. The first task order that we would like to issue under this agreement would be for the WPI Phase 2.3 project. But in order to move forward with this approach, I do have to ask Caltrans permission first. Lastly, staff is requesting authorization to release a request for proposals for consulting services for the environmental engineering design, right-of-way, and design construction support services for the project. So just to be clear, if we do approve this, it means we would have 2 consultants working on the project, a consultant project manager and an environmental and engineering design consultant. The project manager would be overseeing the work prepared by the other consultant, and the project manager would perform the tasks that are typically performed by the local agencies. So there will have to be significant conflict of interest statements and requirements in this contract. And obviously, the same consultant will not be able to provide both services. The project manager would report directly to me. They would act as an independent contractor, but for all intents and purposes, be acting as an extension of city staff. If approved, staff will release the request for qualifications to obtain project manager for the WPI 2.3 project, and once we have selected that consultant, then we would release the RFP for the design consultant. Staff will then return to council at a later date to request a budget appropriation of the STIP funding, approval of the first task order for project manager services, and then also the approval of the agreement for engineering services with the selected consultant. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the council? No? Would any member of the public like to comment on this item? All right, I see none. I'll bring it back to the council.
This project is really important. But hey, we said we would do it, and we should do what we say. And the westbound off-ramp is critical, because we've talked about this, and I mentioned, I think with a fully functioning Ray Lawyer Drive, it takes pressure off of Placerville Drive, because that's a big project, and may actually inform revising that project at some point in the future. So getting this last leg done is critical. Plus, there is, God, I'm going to say something. There is developable land on Ray Lawyer Drive as you go out, and this would definitely maybe help in some of that maybe being developed into whatever houses or whatever it could be developed into. So anyway, I would move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, moving on to item 12.3, a request for the creation of a comprehensive code enforcement program and associated ordinance updates. Ms. Kendrick.
Good evening, Mayor Gottberg and members of the City Council. Carol Kendrick, Director of Development Services. I'm here tonight requesting that the council authorize Development Services to proceed with the creation of a comprehensive code enforcement program, including all necessary updates to our city ordinances. As you know, our community is a welcome, active, and business-friendly rural foothill town built on California's rich gold rush history. Maintaining our quality of life depends on having clear, fair, and effective code enforcement that supports responsible property owners and businesses while protecting our neighborhoods. Currently, our city code only includes basic enforcement authority in the administration section. While this provides a starting point, we do not have a dedicated program that clearly defines goals, outline procedures, or provides consistent tools and processes for addressing violations. This makes code enforcement less efficient and can create uncertainty for both staff and the public. The proposed comprehensive code enforcement program will address this gap. It will document the entire code enforcement process from initial complaint through investigation, noticing, voluntary compliance, and final resolution. The program will be developed through a review of our past enforcement practices, research on successful programs in similar jurisdictions, and a thorough analysis of our current codes. The program will establish clear procedures for receiving, investigating, and validating complaints, create consistent case processing steps that ensure proper noticing and due process. It provides structured pathways to help property owners and businesses achieve compliance, and it equips our code enforcement official with effective tools and internal policies for fair and timely enforcement. And it will include a formal process for the regular review and updating of city ordinances to keep them aligned with local, state, and federal laws. This effort directly supports strategic plan under Strategy 7, maintain and improve quality of life, which has an item to develop a comprehensive code enforcement program. Environmentally, this is an administrative action and does not constitute a project under CEQA. Budget-wise, the work will be completed with existing staff resources, approximately 6 to 8 hours per week for 2 to 4 weeks with no additional cost to the city. Staff recommends that the council authorize development services to move forward developing this program and any associated ordinance updates. We believe this initiative will improve operational efficiency, enhance compliance outcomes, reduce legal risk, and provide clearer expectations for our residents and business community. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the council? All right. Would any member of the public like to comment on this item?
Sir Rodman, good evening. You can't have codes that work unless you can enforce them. So with no enforcement or lackadaisical enforcement, you end up with a very sloppy way of trying to keep track of what's going on in your city. So you've got to have some way to enforce your codes in order for them to be effective. So I support this. This is, I think, much needed.
Kathy Lishman, I really appreciate the fact that the Development Services Department is willing to take a look at this. Years ago, there was no code enforcer. It was just happened haphazardly. Little by little, it's improved the situation, but this is going to make it fair to everybody. And I do have that question still about if staff or the council see codes that are violated, are they going to be able to report them, or is it all based on a citizen reporting it and then closing your eyes for the rest of it? So I think this will take care of that, and I'm really happy to see that the city could be moving in this direction. Thank you.
Thanks. Any more questions or comments from the public? All right, I see none. I'll bring it back to the council for action.
Well, I would just like to comment that I've never been stopped from reporting somebody something, if I see something hinky out there, reporting it to staff and whatever action that can be taken. I think one of the more important things, and what this will speak to, is frequently we have people send us things and they go, oh, well, this is what about this? And we look it up and it's like, yeah, okay. And then we talk to staff and we say, well, then staff says, yeah, but we really have no way to enforce this. And so it's not necessarily a desire to report things as often as it is just we have no lever to pull in order to enforce something. So this will definitely be helping with that. So I'll move staff recommendation unless somebody else has a comment. Okay.
I will second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, moving on to item number 12.4, adoption of a resolution appointing Joseph Wren as interim city manager and approving a proposed employment agreement establishing the terms and conditions of employment and salary and benefits of said employment. Ms. Ibrahimi.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg. On May 12th, the City Council met in closed session and reported out of closed session the appointment of Mr. Wren as the interim city manager following the former city manager Dave Warren's retirement. The item presented before you tonight memorializes that, and you are being asked to adopt a resolution which also approves an employment agreement for this specific position. The Brown Act requires that we report out salary and benefits associated with this position change. The council has considered that and will be keeping Mr. Wren's salary and benefits the same exact as when he was chief of police, so there will be no change or fiscal impact to the city. The overall annual salary will remain at $179,064. And as previously mentioned, all other benefits will also remain unchanged. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the council? All right, I see none. Any member of the public like to comment on this item? All right, I see none. I will bring it back to the council for action.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, moving on to 12.5, purchase and sale agreement for acquisition of 681 Main Street, Placerville, California.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, we're presenting a unique opportunity to address long-standing facility needs while making a fiscally responsible investment in the city's future. For years, studies and assessments, including a 2020 grand jury report, have identified deficiencies in our public safety and municipal facilities. While new construction was evaluated, escalating costs made that option fiscally unattainable. The acquisition of 681 Main Street offers a practical and cost-effective alternative. At a purchase price of $1.5 million, the city can leverage $1 million in state grant funding, requiring a $500,000 investment from general fund reserves to secure a facility capable of serving all city departments for years to come. Just as important as the purchase price are the long-term savings. The city currently operates and maintains multiple aging facilities, many of which require significant repairs and upgrades. Preliminary cost estimates indicate the city could face between $8 million and $12 million in deferred maintenance and capital improvement costs over the next decade. By consolidating city operations into a single facility, we can reduce maintenance obligations, lower operating costs, eliminate duplication of services and infrastructure, and create opportunities to repurpose or dispose of underutilized properties. Those future opportunities may generate additional revenue while reducing ongoing liabilities. This is an investment in public safety, as well as operational efficiency and long-term fiscal sustainability. The city has an opportunity to secure a modern municipal campus, maximizing available grant funding and potentially avoid millions of dollars in future facility costs. Staff believes this is the most cost-effective and operationally beneficial solution currently available and respectfully recommends approval. I would like to point out that coming out of I believe it was a strategic planning meeting, the council formed a committee to look at all options. 681 was one of multiple facilities and opportunities that were looked at, and it just kind of fit we were able to put a check in every box that we needed. We also have an opportunity with the fire district as well, and I don't know if I'll speak on that. I know Chief Gates has people he's got to talk to about it, but I think, is it okay? So the plan would be, once the police department vacates 681 Main Street, for the fire department to move in the current police facility. Chief Gates and his team has conducted a preliminary inspection, and they believe that it'll meet their operational needs for now and into the future. So a lot of things will happen in relatively quick order once the purchase of 681 is approved. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to make that statement. In the staff report, it says the city's going to consolidate police, fire, public works into one building, but fire is not included into that one building. They would move into the police station. I just wanted to make that clarification.
We will offer a space for them.
Right.
A working space, a working office, but it's
But they won't be in 681.
It often doubles as the broom closet, but we think we can make it nice for them. So.
All right. Any other comments from the council?
I'd like to say I was part of the team that went out, and actually most council members looked at and saw properties. I was familiar with several of the ones that I did not look at, but I'd been in them before. And I really do believe this is a good option for all of us, and create a real civic center, and then move everything into it, ultimately including this, and then hopefully hopefully unloading these buildings, and I don't mean that in a negative way, and to be repurposed into who knows what, maybe to the benefit of the community as well. So I thought it was very good, and I want to thank Jackie No for being part of that, and then everybody else that put in their 2 cents worth, and all the hard work staff has done to put the funding and the paperwork and everything together. So good work, everyone.
Are there any comments from the public on item 12.5?
Sue Rodman, this was sort of a surprise to me a couple of weeks ago when I first heard about it. And as I go to get my blood tested at the Midtown Mall, which is 681, and I looked around at that building and I thought, you know, I think this would make a good, as Councilmember Colici put it, a good centralized place to have a campus for the city. And I think this is a great idea. And especially if we get rid of all the ones that are requiring a lot of maintenance that we don't have money for, and to get into a building that is not going to require as much maintenance. My question is, I hope this includes the parking lot that goes with it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's ours.
Because when you go to do city business, you got to have a place to park. And I think that this sounds like a good idea. Good job, you guys.
Kathy Lishman, this is very exciting. And a vision of looking forward to the future is wonderful. You mentioned about the police department, but I didn't hear anything specific about this building. I know John said something, and I wasn't sure if the council intends to meet in that building or this building, and where recreation classes would take place.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
Ruth Carter, City of Placerville, and also a local real estate broker. I think that this couldn't be a more sound decision for the City of Placerville. Overall, it makes a lot of financial sense. There will be some income from renters also offsetting some costs for future building renovations, improvements, things that are needed. So that's a nice added bonus that we wouldn't get under normal circumstances. The only concern that I truly have on this property, because of what I do, I did a little bit of digging on the title. I have concerns over some clouds on the title. And so my question is just to make sure, because there were some recently recorded things that had different unit numbers on them, as if somebody was selling individual spaces. And maybe there was not something known, because it looks like it's heirs from a probate. And so my concerns are with the title. And so that's all I can say about that.
We have Dave in the
Are there any other comments from the public? Okay, we'll bring it back up here. I think there was answers to some of the questions.
The broker that the city utilized was Dave Bolster. I don't know if he's got any information on the title stuff, if he can come up and speak on it.
Good evening, members of the county, council, I'm sorry, used to working with the county. Yes, we do. We have the title report in hand. We're reviewing that now. That's part of our due diligence process. The exceptions in the title report articulate all those issues. So obviously we're gonna vet all those things and approve the title report. That's one of the contingencies in the purchase contract.
Great.
And we are, thanks, David. And for Kathy, we are looking at, where's she at?
She's behind you.
Oh, sorry.
She's way back there.
She's hiding. Kathy, we are, the plan would be to also transition the staff here over to that facility and identify space in that facility where they can conduct their classes. There's big enough suites in there to be able to do that.
And
And
the council chambers.
And
And
I,
the
and I
council
guess, yeah, ultimately, everything would move in there, including the council chambers. And then, who knows what could happen to this building? I've been fantasizing, sounds terrible, but I've been fantasizing about this because it just sounds great to me. But, who knows? This building, I imagine when they were laying the foundation for the purity market, nobody thought this thing would be around 100 years in the future. So I guess it's okay. But, for example, I've talked to some folks, obviously making no guarantees or any commitments. How about a theater? Live entertainment in here, because this originally was open up here. I mean, this was all been added. I'm assuming the floor above us was added because, purity markets were Quonset huts, so they were basically just, round inside. So something like that would bring activities back downtown. And I have some really interesting ideas about City Hall. Not Old City Hall, no, but City Hall, but I won't talk about them.
All right. Any further comments or motion on this item?
I'll move staff recommendation for 12.5.
And I will second.
All right. I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right. We're going to move on to item number 13. Council reports from other agency meetings. El Dorado County Transit Authority.
All right. We adopted the 26-27 operating budget and CIP planning budget.
All right. El Dorado County Transportation Commission.
Some real inside baseball stuff here. We approved projects under the Senate Bill 1, State of Good Repair, for fiscal years 26 and 27. So there's a list of projects for those funds. We also got a professional services agreement for the folks that go up and down the freeway and help you out if you've run out of gas or you've had a problem. The Service Patrol, which is a really cool thing, by the way. So we approved that contract with the same provider. So it'll what are they called? Extreme towing. And then we also approved our Senate Bill 125 long-term financial plans. Senate Bill 125 was a thing done about 4 years ago by the legislature, setting aside money to help out transit for a variety of reasons. Some of it with EV adoption, but also just operating and a bunch of other things. And we approved the long-range plan on that. So the long-term financial plan. So those are three important things we did at the Transportation Commission.
All right. LAFCO.
Yeah, we approved our next year's work plan, projects, and budget. And we also reappointed Bill Wild as our public member for LAFCO.
All right. SACOG.
SACOG meets here next Thursday. Very exciting.
All right. Pioneer.
We meet next week.
Placerville Fire Safe Council, we met, we talked about the recent Holland fire, the radio watch group, and Eschaton's plans or attempts to get an additional access road out to Bennett Drive. And I guess Jackie might have something to add to that.
Oh, I just wanted to add that the burn ban became effective 6/8/26. And they also encouraged everybody to sign up for Watch Duty, Perimeter, and Rave for the upcoming season.
Yep. All right. Opportunity Knox, Continuum of Care.
We did meet. It was mostly contractual language for upcoming grants and nothing really of significance for the city.
All right. Would any member of the public like to comment on item 13? All right. I see none. Item 14, request for future agenda items. Does anybody have a request for a future agenda item? All right, I see none. We have no city manager and staff reports tonight. Item 16, upcoming items. You can read those at your leisure. So we are going to adjourn the meeting at 6:13 p.m.
Nice done.
Nicely done. Look how much we got done.